$3 million has just been paid in Jewish lives. It is shocking, grossly immoral, and yet far too few people know what happened. So I'm going to take you back in time 6 years to when MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, a psychopath and narcissist, entertained another narcissist with a marvelous military parade of American military hardware and all of the proper fanfare that a narcissist would love. When Donald Trump visited Saudi Arabia. At the time, Saudi Arabia did not like the influence of Qatar, and particularly Al Jazeera in Qatar, nor the influence of the Houthis in Yemen. And so he convinced Donald Trump to take his side against the Qatari and also the Houthi nuts in Yemen. And so Qatar thought they would go on a charm offensive, and since Muslim leaders don't have any charm, they substituted charm for something that is far more appealing to the likes of Donald Trump and those who surround him. And I don't say this because I'm a liberal, because I'm not. I am more conservative than, well, probably any Republican, although I am apolitical. I'm telling you this because you need to know it. I'm telling you this even though it disappoints me to have to say it. So rather than charming Donald Trump and his entourage during his first term, some now 5 years ago, the Qataris responded by bribing them. And the first that they bribed was Witkoff, to the tune of $623 million. He had purchased, along with a partner, the Park Lane Hotel, some place I've stayed at many times, alongside Central Park in New York. And that purchase went, well, sideways. So he was going to have to declare bankruptcy. The Qataris saw an opportunity because of the natural gas and oil that exudes from their land. They were rife with money, and they bailed him out, and they bought him. Just as the Saudis have done deals with Trump and his entourage. And I happen to think that Trump's son-in-law is a very bright man. He played the lead role as it relates to the Abraham Accords. And you know what his prize was? For setting Saudi Arabia up to own Israel one day. $2 billion is how much the Saudis invested in Trump's family. They don't invest that kind of money for nothing. So it became time to call in the first of those two debts, the $623 million that had been given to Witkoff. And so Donald Trump took his golfing buddy, his fellow real estate mogul in New York, and he made him envoy to the Middle East. And then after going to the Qataris, who owned him financially, he negotiated a deal that was devastating to Israel, a deal that will cost Israel hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of lives. And then when he brought it to Israel, which is essentially to end the war. I know Netanyahu says, oh, no, it doesn't mean we're ending the war. We're just pulling out, but we can go back later. Yeah. fat chance. A deal which saw 1,000 of the most disgusting murderers and rapists of Jews released, traded for innocent lives, rewarding the Muslim jihadists for the very crimes that they committed, assuring that they do it again, and that the next time will be far more savage and far more devastating. Netanyahu knew what the consequences were. When he sent the IDF into Gaza, I actually opposed it because I said, you cannot fight a religious war, and you're at war against Islam, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, with bullets and bombs. You will manufacture more terrorists than you killed. And in fact, that is exactly what happened. It was reported by me and by others that as of 3 weeks ago, when the IDF did an assessment of the number of jihadists in Gaza, they had actually increased from the number of Gazans that were committed to terrorism before the IDF eliminated 20,000 of them. I knew it to be true. That's why I reported it on the 7th of October back in 23. But now Israel is going to abandon the Philadelphia corridor, allowing Egypt to send as much weaponry as they want into Gaza. As we saw on the first evening of the hostage exchange for convicted murderers and terrorists, the influence and the strength of weaponry of Muslims in Gaza has not diminished. They're beasts. And what they did surrounding the cars of those innocent girls that they had abducted was horrendous, but you do see the way they were celebrating and the way Muslims have been celebrating around the world because they know Israel capitulated. Israel exposed her neck for Muslims to slice off, and they know it, and they were celebrating it. And the Islamic terrorists that were released from prisons immediately went out and looked the cameras in the eye and celebrated, yes, I will kill more Jews. Why would Israel capitulate? Why did Netanyahu fold and renege on his promise to wipe out Hamas? Because he most certainly didn't do so. It was my opinion. He could never do so. Not opinion, it's conclusion that he could never do so, and I've been proven right. Why? Because Witkoff demanded it. He met with Netanyahu in his home, and he demanded that Israel capitulate. He had received $623 million from the Qataris, and the Qataris are the sponsor of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. They are the principal financiers of this jihadi war against Israel. They're the primary sponsors of the protests that we witness on our college campuses and in our streets, as well as the campuses and streets of Europe. They are the primary buyers of influence in America's universities. And they bought and owned Donald Trump's envoy to the Middle East. And the Qataris all admitted that it was his strong arm against Netanyahu that got them the deal that they wanted. Even Hamas admitted it. And there were other Arab leaders and Muslim leaders who said the same thing. And they acknowledged Trump's use of Witkoff to compel Netanyahu to capitulate. And by trading these convicted terrorists, which is the very goal that the Muslim jihadists wanted when they abducted them, the very day they'd abducted them, they say, we will get thousands of our boys out of the prisons in Israel, the worst of them. The last time they played this game, it was 1,000-1, and we got Sinwar. This is insane. You know, there is a battle between head and heart. I understand that. But when your head does not influence your heart, you will make all manner of stupid decisions. And in this case, Israel folded. And they folded because they were forced to by Witkoff, who told Netanyahu that he was under orders to capitulate. And this isn't even the worst of it. It's not just that a $623 million debt was paid in Jewish lives. It's what's going to happen next. I wish it were not true. But I have read the prophets and I am certain of it, and you should be certain of it. What Trump wants most of all is the acclaim of doing the ultimate deal, normalizing relationships between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And the only way that occurs is for Israel to be weakened, to Israel to be threatened, to give its very heart, the center of Israel, to Saudi Arabia. And a two-state dissolution, just like Neville Chamberlain gave the high ground of Czechoslovakia to Adolf Hitler to appease the Nazis. This is what Donald Trump craves. It is what he will force Israel to do. By no later than May of 2026, you are going to witness the Trump administration force Israel into capitulation, to give its heart, in its heartland, to the Muslims, to appease Saudi Arabia, which, because they are Muslims and because MBS is a psychopath, is worth nothing. It will make Israel indefensible. America will offer all sorts of promises of protection, but America has never fought on Israel's behalf. We fought, America put boots on the ground to fight on behalf of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, sacrificing our lives, our sons' lives, and our coin, because, well, George Bush was also owned and operated by Saudi Arabia. But Kirshner's $2 billion investment from the Saudis, Donald Trump's son-in-law, is going to be paid with the state of Israel. This is your fate. I wish it were not true. I realize that Donald Trump seemed like a superior alternative to cackles, and that anything had to be superior to progressive libertards. And you had to leave the comatose nature and the hypocrisy of the Biden administration. But sometimes what you actually get can be worse. And this is one of those occasions. Israel trusted Donald Trump because in his previous time in office, he moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and he declared that the Golan Heights belonged to Israel. But this time, it's not going to be that way. We have already seen proof that a bribe has been paid in Jewish lives. And the next episode of this story will be to sell Israel to Saudi Arabia because of another bribe. That is inevitable. The prophets have spoken of it. The timing has been given to us. Isaiah told us that it would be America who did this. He told us that it would occur on Shabuah 7 years before Yahweh's return, before year 6000 Yah, which means it will occur in and around May 22nd of 2026. And we have also been told by Yeshaya the prophet and Joel, that what it's going to unleash is a war of unimaginable consequence, and that the hell that's going to be unleashed against humankind, and particularly against God's people, Yehudim and Israel, is going to be unlike anything humanity has ever experienced, worse than the Holocaust. This is what awaits the world. I want you to be forearmed. I know the truth. I speak for God. I have read his prophets. This is what's going to occur, when it's going to occur, and how it is going to happen. I am Yada, Craig Wynn, and this has been a news episode of the Yahowah blog.